The forest was silent, save for the whisper of pine needles under her boots. Mira had never intended to trespass so deep into the northern woods, but the invitation, or rather, the misunderstanding, had seemed harmless at the time. One night, just one night, she had promised herself it would be a quiet escape from the suffocating expectations of the city, a brief respite from her work, from life. Her bag was light, holding only essentials, a change of clothes, a journal, and a small flashlight. The moon hung low and full, casting a silver sheen over the forest, turning the frost-kissed leaves into shimmering crystals. She shivered, adjusting her scarf. The winter air was sharper than she had expected, but adventure, she thought, was always accompanied by discomfort. When she reached the clearing, Mira froze. The cabin that rose before her was not the rustic, modest retreat she had envisioned. Its structure was grand, with tall, dark timber walls and smoke curling from the stone chimney. The scent of pine mingled with something more ancient, something commanding. Her pulse quickened. "This isn't the cabin I rented," she whispered half to herself, but before she could retreat, the door swung open. A man stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, his presence demanding attention even in the quiet of the forest. His eyes, amber like molten gold, scanned her with a piercing intensity. There was no greeting, only a weight in his gaze that made her stomach tighten. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice deep, steady, and undeniably commanding. Mira's heart skipped. Just one night, I won't be trouble," she stammered, glancing at the forest behind her, considering running. He studied her for a long moment, and the air seemed to thrum with tension, a silent warning and an unspoken challenge all at once. "I think you already are trouble," he finally said, a faint, almost imperceptible smirk playing on his lips. Mira froze. The warmth in his eyes was magnetic, yet there was danger lurking beneath the surface. Before she could retreat further, he gestured toward the cabin. "You're staying, and you're not leaving until dawn," he said, turning sharply and walking inside. Mira blinked. Did she hear him right? Her instinct screamed to flee, but her curiosity, and an inexplicable pull toward him, kept her rooted. Slowly, she approached the cabin, the snow crunching softly beneath her boots. The door was already open, as if he had anticipated her hesitation. Inside, the cabin was breathtaking. Logs burned in a large fireplace, the scent of cedar and leather, mixing with the faint trace of something wild. The walls were lined with artifacts, ancient wolf carvings, silver ornaments glinting in the firelight, and books that seemed centuries old. Every detail spoke of power, of dominance, and of secrets well kept. He stood by the hearth, watching her like a predator studying its prey. "Sit," he commanded, and she did, heart racing. The firelight danced across his chiseled features, and Mira felt a strange mix of fear and fascination. "You know who I am." His question was more statement than inquiry. I don't," she admitted, realizing too late how unwise it might be to claim ignorance. "You will," he said simply, a shadow of a smile tugging at his lips. "I am the Alpha King of this territory, and you, little wanderer, are in my domain." Mira's eyes widened. Alpha King, her mind raced. Wolves, werewolves, legends. It had to be a joke, right? But the aura around him, the way the cabin seemed to pulse with his presence, it was undeniable. "I didn't mean to," she started, but he cut her off with a gesture. "Save your excuses. You are here, and for tonight you belong to me." The weight of those words sank into her chest. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream, and yet an intoxicating thrill coursed through her veins, and for the first time Mira felt alive in a way she never had before. Outside, the forest was silent, but inside, the night had just begun. Mira sat stiffly on the cabin's woven rug, her hands clutching the edge of the seat. Every muscle in her body was taut, every nerve alert. The Alpha King, his name still a mystery to her, stood by the hearth, the firelight flickering over his golden eyes, making them glow like embers in the dark. "You don't understand," she whispered finally. "I didn't mean to intrude. I thought this was—" He silenced her with a raised hand. "I am not here to punish you," he said, his voice low, almost velvet, yet carrying an undercurrent of power that made her heart pound. "Tonight, you are my guest, but you must understand the rules of my domain." Mira swallowed hard, her mind spinning. "Rules, yes," he said, stepping closer. Each movement was deliberate, controlled, like a predator circling its prey. "You will not leave until dawn. You will respect my cabin and its boundaries, and most importantly, you will not interfere with what is mine." "What is yours?" she asked, voice barely audible. He smiled, a dangerous, slow curve of his lips that made her stomach flip. "Everything within these woods, and tonight you." Mira froze, heat flooding her cheeks. I don't. You don't have to say anything." He interrupted gently, though the authority in his tone was undeniable. "Actions speak louder than words, little wanderer. Watch, learn, and survive the night." Her heart raced. She had read stories of alphas, of werewolves, of kings who ruled not only territory, but the lives of everyone around them. She had never imagined she would meet one, and yet here he was, towering, commanding, and utterly enthralling. He moved toward the wall, pulling down a small wooden chest. From it, he drew a simple, silken blanket and placed it on the floor near the fire. "Sit," he commanded. Mira hesitated, then obeyed. As she settled on the blanket, he finally took a seat opposite her, cross-legged, his gaze never leaving hers. The fire crackled between them, shadows dancing across the room. For a long moment, silence hung heavy, filled only by the occasional pop of burning logs. Then he spoke, softer this time. "You are brave, coming here alone. Many would have fled at the sight of me." I didn't know," Mira admitted, her voice trembling. "I thought it was just a cabin." "It is not," he said, leaning back slightly. "This is my sanctuary, my world, and now it is yours if you choose to stay." Mira's eyes widened. "Choose to stay, yes," he said simply, the intensity in his gaze making her feel exposed. "You could run now, but you didn't. That choice tells me more about you than any words could. You are curious, brave, reckless, and perhaps foolish." She laughed nervously, unsure whether it was relief or fear. "I guess I am a little foolish." He tilted his head, studying her. "Foolish, yes, but there is a fire in you. I can feel it. That fire will either protect you or destroy you tonight." Mira's breath caught. There was something in his presence, something primal, magnetic, that made her pulse quicken. Every instinct screamed caution, yet every fiber of her being ached to stay. Then a sound from outside made both of them pause. A low, guttural growl rolled through the forest, echoing off the trees. The Alpha King's ears twitched subtly, his posture stiffening. "You hear that?" he asked, voice sharp, commanding. Mira nodded, frozen. "What is it?" He stood, moving to the window, and peered into the darkness. His eyes glowed faintly, golden in the moonlight. "Wolves," he said simply. "My pack, they know when intruders are near. They sense fear, but do not worry. They will not come inside, not tonight." Mira's gaze followed his, mesmerized. There was a power here she had never encountered, wild, untamed, yet disciplined. She could feel it radiating from him, pulsing through the walls of the cabin. Turning back to her, he softened slightly. "Stay close to the fire, tonight. You will learn who I am, and perhaps who you are meant to be with." Mira's heart hammered in her chest. Every nerve was alive. This was no ordinary night, no ordinary cabin, no ordinary man. The Alpha King, with all his power and mystery, had claimed her attention. And she was powerless to resist. Outside, the forest whispered secrets she could not yet understand. Inside, the firelight danced across the cabin walls, and the night stretched before them, full of tension, attraction, and the promise of danger. The fire crackled, throwing sparks into the air as Mira hugged her knees to her chest, watching him. The Alpha King, tall, imposing, and impossibly commanding, sat opposite her, his amber eyes glowing like molten gold in the shadows. Every movement he made radiated power, and yet there was a strange magnetic pull, a warmth beneath the danger that made her chest ache. "I should go," she whispered, more to herself than to him. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees, his gaze locking onto hers. "You could leave," he said finally, "but you won't. You feel it too, don't you?" Mira's throat went dry. "Feel what?" "The pull," he said simply, his voice low and resonant, vibrating through the air between them. "The connection, the unspoken understanding that tonight is not like any other night. She shivered, the words brushing against a part of her she hadn't acknowledged until now. Something wild and untamed stirred within her, a part of her that wanted to surrender, to trust, to let go. "I don't know what you want from me," she admitted, voice trembling. He smiled, a slow, predatory curve of his lips that made her heart race. "I want you to stay, to learn, to see the world as I do, and perhaps to understand that sometimes choice is an illusion when desire is involved." Before she could respond, a low growl rolled through the cabin. Mira's eyes widened as the Alpha King's posture shifted, muscles tensing, senses alert. His hand went to the small pendant around his neck, a symbol she didn't recognize, but one that clearly held power. "They're close," he said, his voice calm but laced with authority. "My pack, they can feel it. A stranger in their territory, even one within my walls, is an anomaly, but do not fear. They respect me, and tonight you are mine." Mira's breath caught. His words, though comforting in their intent, carried a weight she couldn't ignore. She had stumbled into a world of danger, power, and primal instincts, and yet she couldn't find herself regretting it. He stepped closer, and the heat radiating from him was almost tangible. "Do you understand what it means to be in my presence?" he asked, his voice a whisper now, intimate and dangerous. I think so," she said, her voice barely audible. "No," he corrected softly, shaking his head. "You don't, not yet, but you will. Tonight, you will see what it means to be in the realm of the Alpha King." Mira's pulse quickened. He reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. His touch was electric, sending shivers down her spine. The firelight danced across his face, highlighting the intensity in his eyes. "You are not like the others," he said, his voice low, almost a growl. "Most would run, most would tremble, but you intrigue me, and in my world, intrigue can be dangerous." Her heart pounded. She wanted to speak, to protest, to flee, but the words caught in her throat. The Alpha King's presence was overwhelming, suffocating in the best possible way. Every instinct screamed caution, yet every fiber of her being ached to stay. Then, without warning, he leaned closer. The heat of his body was almost unbearable, and she felt the tension between them snap like a taut wire. His lips hovered near hers, not quite touching, a whisper away. "Do you trust me?" he asked, his voice a dangerous melody. Mira's mind screamed, her heart fluttered, and yet she found herself nodding. "Yes," she breathed. "Good," he murmured, and finally his lips met hers. The kiss was slow, deliberate, and intoxicating. It was a claim, a promise, and a challenge all at once. Mira felt herself melting into it, a fire igniting deep within her. Outside, the forest stood silent, but inside, the cabin was alive with the tension of desire, power, and the unspoken understanding that this night was only the beginning. The Alpha King had claimed her attention, her curiosity, and perhaps her heart. And Mira, despite every warning her mind could muster, knew she would never be the same again. Here's *** Part 4 ** of your cinematic werewolf romance novel. # Part 4. The pack awakens. The first light of dawn had not yet touched the horizon, but the forest outside the cabin was alive with whispers, rustling shadows, and low, resonant growls. Mira lay near the fire, wrapped in the soft blanket the Alpha King had placed for her, her mind still reeling from the intensity of last night. Every nerve felt alive. Every heartbeat synchronized with the strange, magnetic rhythm he carried. The Alpha King sat across from her, shirtless now, the firelight tracing the lines of his muscles, each movement deliberate and powerful. His eyes, golden and molten, never left her, and Mira felt herself simultaneously terrified and drawn in. "They are restless," he said finally, breaking the silence. His voice carried a weight that resonated through the cabin. "My pack senses intruders, even at the edges of the forest. They can feel your presence and your fear." Mira swallowed hard. "They won't attack me." He shook his head slowly, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "No, not if I say they won't. But understand this, my pack is loyal, fiercely loyal. And anyone who enters my world is theirs as much as mine. You are mine, and by extension, theirs." A shiver ran down her spine. The forest outside seemed suddenly alive, aware, breathing. Mira could hear the soft padding of paws on the forest floor, the occasional snap of a twig. Her pulse raced. The Alpha King moved closer, his presence overwhelming. He crouched beside her, his gaze locking onto hers. "Do you understand what it means to be with me?" I think I do," she whispered. "It's dangerous, dangerous," he repeated, his lips brushing against her temple, sending sparks through her body. "Yes, but thrilling, wild, alive, and it is a world few survive and fewer still endure willingly." Mira's breath caught. His nearness, the heat radiating from him, the weight of his gaze. It was intoxicating, overwhelming. And yet she felt an undeniable pull, a longing to belong, even just for this night. Suddenly, the cabin door creaked open. Mira's eyes widened as 3 massive wolves padded inside, their coats glinting silver in the firelight, their amber eyes mirroring his own. They circled the room, muscles rippling, tails brushing the floor like elegant shadows. "They are my sentinels," the Alpha King said calmly. "They are part of me, and now, part of your reality." Mira froze, torn between fear and fascination. The wolves stopped near the hearth, sitting obediently but with an intensity that radiated raw power. One stepped closer, sniffing the air near her, its eyes locking onto hers. "You see," he said, voice soft but firm. "They respect my command, and now they are curious about you. But do not mistake curiosity for threat. My pack does not harm those I protect." Mira nodded, unable to tear her eyes away. The energy in the room was palpable, charged with danger and desire, dominance and loyalty. She could feel it in her bones, in the rhythm of her heartbeat, in the way the firelight flickered across the Alpha King's face. He leaned down, brushing his lips briefly against hers. "Tonight?" he whispered, "you will learn the rules of my world. You will learn what it means to be claimed, and you will discover how deeply desire and danger can intertwine." Mira's pulse raced, every nerve alight with anticipation. She had stepped into this forest thinking it would be a harmless escape. She had imagined a simple cabin, a quiet night, a temporary reprieve. She had been wrong. The Alpha King's cabin was no ordinary place, and she was no ordinary guest. The night, and the forest, had claimed her as much as he had. Outside, the pack shifted, a low chorus of growls and howls echoing in the trees. Inside, the fire crackled. Shadows danced on the walls, and Mira realized with a thrill that the night was only beginning. And so was her awakening.